Hey, we're live. What's going on, Gussy? How you doing, bud?
I'm good. I'm always good.
You're good. I know you're good. Listen, everybody, welcome to tonight's special edition of our, I guess, what normally would be Shimano School. We're going to call this G. Loomis School because we're going to be sitting here tonight talking to Jeff Gussy Gustafson, who actually in very dominating fashion just recently won his very first blue trophy on the Elite Series. And we're going to be discussing the big release of the new NRX+ rods, which I know Gussy has had quite the hand in fishing them for the past little while. And I've been fortunate enough to try a few. So why don't we just get things going? Folks, if you're jumping on here, you do me a favor, let me know where you're checking in from in the comment section. That always helps. And if you click the share button, that helps us get the word out. We can get more people in here to chat. We've already got 50 people online, so this is a great start. I hope everybody is staying safe and doing well, but I want to talk to Gussy about his big win. Dude, you have no idea how much of, not just Canada, because everybody says, oh, Canada's pulling for you. A lot of people were pulling for you on this one. How did it feel to finally take that trophy down?
Yeah, I mean, like, I've been close a few times, and you know, it was like, yeah, it was everything. It was awesome. And like, you look at there's so many, like, you know, amazing anglers, like guys that I really look up to, like a Gerald Swindle. He's never won an Elite Series event. Like, it's hard. It's so hard to win one of those tournaments. Like 4 days against, like, these guys are animals. And I mean, it's not like, you know, like any of us are getting to fish our own, you know, our home lake where, you know, like I could probably catch them 4 days in a row on Lake of the Woods against these guys pretty good. But like, so yeah, it's a special group of guys and anglers, and you know, it was awesome. The only thing that kind of was disappointing a little bit was like not being able to have all the friends and family there that probably, yeah. I mean, you were in Knoxville a couple years ago. Like, it's a pretty awesome town, city, and it would have been a fun time that weekend there if everyone would for sure come down. But no, it was pretty cool. I know you know the story, but the first day of the event, so and this has kind of come out a little bit now, but I haven't really told the whole story to anyone before, but the first, so last year I got like 5 or 6 NRX+ prototypes to fish with and use, and got to provide some feedback on, and like I don't even want to pick up a regular NRX off the deck when those are in the boat. Like, they're beautiful. They're just like, they're the nicest fishing rods that I've ever used. And not, you know, like, they're expensive. They're not for everybody. But if you like make your living fishing and you're tournament fishing or a guide, you want to have you know, you're able to have the best of the best. Like, these are the best fishing rods you can buy pretty much, I think. And so I had I had a few different models that I got to use, and I just kind of kept them on the down low. You know, don't show anybody, don't get photos with them, all that stuff. So I was using them a little bit. And then at the start of this season, I got one new spinning rod that we used for some photos and stuff down in Florida. Bob Mahoney, our good friend and our boss at G. Loomis, got me one of the rods, and I was grateful for it. And, you know, I had another beauty rod. I love to fish so much and everything, like, and you know it, I'm sure it drives you nuts, but like, I just love to fish so much. And I take a lot of pride in the equipment that I use, and like, I'm using the shit out of this thing.
I think I sent you the Accents to go with that rod. The brand new Accents when it was released.
Brand new Accents too. So like, I got the best spinning rod and reel money can buy pretty much in my boat. So I had it for some photos, and then I got to carry it with me and hang on to it. So I wasn't giving it up, that's for sure. And so we get to Knoxville, and just the way that all worked out was just very fortunate. Caught a big, huge break there. Found this big, school of smallmouths, and that all worked out. But the first day of the tournament, that was the only rod that I used the whole day. I mean, to catch my limit. Like I caught my limit pretty quick, and then I left the area and went and largemouth fish the rest of the day. Did some other stuff, but I caught my whole limit. Biggest, was leading by 3 or 4 pounds after day one. Caught every fish on that new rod. It was an 852, perfect rod for the Demiki rig moping technique that I was using, and everything, everything was great in my world. And I got back, and Bob checks in with me quite often after.
And Bob's got an eagle eye on him too.
And he like I knew he would, but he noticed that I was using that rod. There was a few photos starting to float around, and he's like, yeah, you might have to keep that rod on the down low tomorrow. And I'm like, yeah, okay, like that's fine. But I'm gonna have a Bassmaster live camera in the boat, so like,
yeah, gotta hide it.
But I'm like, and I told him, I'm like, dude, there's not a freaking chance that I'm not using that rod tomorrow. Like, just so you know, like I'm using that rod tomorrow. Like, yeah, okay, whatever. So like 2 hours later, he calls me back, and like. Before he even says like more than 2 words, I know where this is going. He's like, "Hey, like I can tell
he's protecting your butt at this point, Gussy. Because when I know from what I've heard on the inside of Shimano and Loomis, when something gets leaked like that ahead of time, it's never good for the person who does the leaking. So Bobo was in full dad mode over you, protecting you.
Yeah, no, I know. So he's like, yeah, bud, you can't use that rod tomorrow. Like, I don't want you to get in trouble. I don't want to get in trouble. And so I took the new accents off, and I put that on one of my regular NRX rods. It wasn't like I was, Yeah,
you weren't slumming it by any stretch of the imagination.
So it all worked out, but it was pretty fun.
That says a lot. You know what, Gussy? That says a ton NRX has been the epitome of rods we've had at Loomis for the bass angler. I mean, they are the best we've had, and made everything else in your boat prior to NRX feel like you didn't want to pick it up. And now you pick up NRX Plus, and it makes you not want to pick up NRX. That says a bunch. Let me jump on a few of these things here. There's people checking in from kind of everywhere. Sacramento, California. Tyler, what's going on? Joseph from Orlando, how are you? Brock Parker from Arthur, Ontario. Mountjoy, Pennsylvania. Joseph, hope you're doing well. Kyle from Sudbury. Got Jeff Book from Rosslyn, Ontario. We even got some people from Italy checking in.
Nice.
Pasquale, what's going on? He's actually got a question. So this one's a little bit more of the tech side of things. And I'm getting this all the time. And actually, before I get to this question with you, Gussy, everybody who's also watching on our G Loomis YouTube channel, if you've got questions for Gussy, we're going to talk about whether it's his moping technique or, doing what Gussy does best, or it's about these new rods and how they fish. Put your questions down, guys. We're going to love to get to them, and help us out by sharing. Good evening, Blaine and Cole. What's going on, guys? So for Pasquale, what do you find the major differences? I know on the tech side and spec stuff, but for you, Gussy, what have you noticed?
So for, if you're talking about these kind of rods, I mean, you definitely have some G Loomis knowledge. I would compare the Conquest more to a GLX, just like they're a little heavier action, maybe. I think the NRX Plus rods are a little bit lighter, like just from a feel and fishing standpoint. I mean, the Conquest rods are beautiful, but I think the NRX Plus, the actions are just a little, the tips are a little bit
more refined, almost. If they feel more refined, crisper,
yeah,
in my opinion.
So
go ahead.
Yes, this past weekend we fished at Neely Henry in Alabama, and it was a bank beating tournament, and I had a real tough first day, and then rebounded and finished in the 30s. Like I was really happy with. It could have went bad, and it was a lot of tight quarters casting, accurate casting. That's not something that's a strength for me. Like I'm a lot, if I can go offshore, fish deep, use a spinning rod. I mean, that's more where I maybe have an advantage on some of the southern anglers. And this was you couldn't do that at this place, at least for me. And so it was casting a swim jig, casting a spinnerbait a bunch, and I used the 853 and threw a swim jig on that thing, and like I could put it in a little hole in the grass.
You're talking about the NRX Plus 853,
that was just,
the new one.
Yeah, it's going to make you it made me a better caster, like in a day. And that's where little things like that, when you set the hook and load up on a fish, I mean, it just feels perfect. And when you're casting, it just feels perfect. And that's the little things that I notice.
Yeah. And from the tech side for Pasquale, I mean, the big difference between the two blanks, they're both Spiral X, except NRX Plus does not have High Power X, which in my opinion, High Power X adds a bit of weight to the blank, also adds a bit of toughness and stiffness. And that's why we probably find the NRX Plus feel a little softer in your hand when you grab them, feel a little lighter in power. The guide train is completely different between the two rods. Conquest using Fuji Torzite and SIC guides, and obviously NRX using the new titanium SIC Fujis, and then it transitions to the REC components recoil guides, right? So the titanium recoils, and then ends with an SIC tip top. So very different between the two in terms of the way they're made and feel, in my opinion. I would say NRX Plus is crisper and lighter if I had to pick the two side by side.
Little upgrade on the handle design. Like the handles are beautiful on the casting rods, and
very well fitting. I've got one actually sitting right here. I got an 852 Gussy, your favorite weapon.
That's the rod. Yep.
Yeah, probably the jack of all trades rod out of all of them. And this new CI4 Plus reel seat that they've put on these things, the little indents go a long way, like in the contour of your hand, especially I found on the casting rods.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's see what we got going on here. Guys are starting to pile in questions. Yeah, Cole, who else can't wait for the new 901 for fluff? No kidding. Cole, I had a chance to fish. Go ahead, Gussy.
Yeah, no, I did get a sampler of that rod last year, and I did use it at the St. Lawrence River in the tournament. There was some photos, but nobody knew anything was coming, so I just...
Did you have the white reel seat on yours? Was it still the
they
white
were all
prototype?
Black. The ones I had were all black, so just straight black rods, and they looked awesome actually. But the new ones with the blue thread look pretty sweet.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So here's one from our YouTube viewers. He's asking how the 872S compares to the 852S, and I know you're very familiar with both of them, 7.3 and 7.1 medium. So give them your best breakdown for Mark.
Yeah, I mean, the 872, that's my favorite all-time NRX rod. I haven't actually used that one yet in the NRX Plus, but the 852 is what I used in Knoxville. You kind of can't go wrong either way. I think if I was like a Great Lakes guy all the time, and that little bit longer cast is always necessary, and I'd probably, if I was going to pick one or the other, I'd pick the 872. If I'm fishing up at home where I live and I'm dropping baits over the trolling motor a lot, like I did in Knoxville, then that little bit shorter rod, the actions are fairly similar on them. But they're both very all-purpose. They're great for a tube. They're great for I get a lot of Ned rig heads poured with heavier Gammy 2X hooks, and they're great for those. Great for a Senko, great for a fluke. Like, you can kind of do a lot with both those rods. So, if you like one that's a little bit longer, then I would, maybe go with the 872.
Yeah, I mean, from the front half of the rods, they're basically twins. It just seems like you get 2 extra inches of handle, like more of the thicker part of the blank where the handle slid down. So it's all length, same action, same power. I like what you said though about fishing vertically there, Gussy. Like, you shorter rod for vertical fishing and longer rod for open water casting. Who just showed up in there? Who snuck in there? Is that Shelby?
The Aussie.
Oh, what's up, Carl? How you doing, bud?
How you going?
Good, you?
Good to see you.
Folks, if you don't know, Carl Jacobson, Elite Series Pro. Gussy is hanging out with him, living the good life. There's a blue trophy right behind us there.
Yeah.
How you been, dude?
Good, real good. Yeah.
Real good.
You guys doing?
Attaboy.
We're
going.
We're talking rods, and so my wife and I have invaded Carl and Kayla's place this week for a few days, and we fish at Lake Gunnersville next week. So
yeah, it's a good place to be.
Yeah,
yeah,
good spot.
So I'm going to get Carl to take me out and teach me how to throw a big swim bait around this week, maybe on Chickamauga and
big glide.
Yeah, he knows a thing or two about that.
Yeah, he's the best.
Good to see
right
you.
on.
Hey, guys.
Good seeing you, bud. All right, so people are jumping in here. Mark Weir saying he's from Nova Scotia and he's excited to see the new rods coming. I mean, a lot of talk once the release happened, and it only happened yesterday, about these new NRX pluses.
Yeah.
But it was a tough deal. I mean, I did a walkthrough today that I threw up on YouTube, and it's hard to say, how do you take the best and make it better? Like, it really is a standing order for any company.
But here's the deal. So like everyone that has an NRX rod already, when you get, if you can swing it and get one of these new ones, I mean, you'll be like me in that you just you almost don't want to pick up the regular NRX. And I mean, the great thing about those rods is I've never broke one just fishing. I broke some before, but usually it was my fault. I did something. And I mean, they last you for 10 years. I do a lot of guiding and a lot of the people that I fish with now are repeat clients and good anglers. And a lot of them, most of them have Loomis rods that are coming to fish with me, and a lot of them are 15, 20, 25-year-old IMX, GLX rods, and they're still awesome and in good shape, and they and it's like anything, you get high quality stuff, it's just gonna be more durable and last a lot longer, stand up.
And that's the truth. When you take the investment and spread it out over years, it's no different than a rain suit or a good pair of glasses or a good fluorocarbon for that matter. I mean, what the use you get out of it ends up paying for itself rather than having the shortcomings of something that could fail.
And you can go in a tackle store and pick up a lot of $100 rods that feel like they're pretty good, but when you actually go fish with them and then they break after 6 months, I mean, it's just
yeah. It's components.
It's and a lot of people fishing rods aren't where you should chintz out. I don't think fishing rods, line, reels. It's just, you get what you pay for, and if it just, like I say, those, we can talk about these rods, and then the person that's the weekend, isn't that serious about it. Maybe, well, I can't justify spending that much money on one of these rods, and that's fine. But for people like us that are hardcore and we want to, put every advantage that we can on our side, you have to check these things out.
Yeah, especially if you're competing and you're, like you said off the beginning, up against guys that are, it's a stacked field of hammers, where oftentimes I see less than 16 ounces split 20 spots. If you can put an extra couple ounces, I mean, it could be the difference between a $10,000 payday and a...
It's unbelievable what a fine line it is. And for us, I mean, you make the top 50, you're getting $10,000. And that's a big, I'm a regular guy. I mean, that's a big deal to me. That's winning. And you wouldn't think it would be that hard to do, but it's freaking hard. You gotta bring it, man, every day if you want to get one of those checks. And
dude, there's no donators on the tour when you're at that level. It's not like back home where, you got your 10 teams that you kind of keep your eye on every single event. And, there's, 30 or 40 teams that are, they could have a good day. And then there's the teams that come there and they're just donating to the prize pool. No, you don't have that. You have, 85 to 100 guys.
Very many of those guys now. So it's they're phenomenal. I mean, I've been nothing but impressed with them, and kudos to G Loomis. I mean, they've got a good team of pro staff, and then a lot of the guys that are making the rods and designing the rods, they actually fish. They know what we can talk to them in our language, and they know what we're talking about. And there's we got a chatterbait rod. We've got a Ned rig specific rod, a drop shot specific rod,
Carolina rig rod.
I mean, it's they're designed for the tournament bass angler, and you know, and just for serious fish anglers, you know.
Yeah, I still remember when we were down there for the summit at Shimano, and we sat in with the engineers for Loomis, and it was like, all right, we got all of our touring pros and guys who use our stuff from a personality standpoint, and it was like, okay, tell me what you want, or here's the top techniques. What rod are you using? And then they could figure out where to go from there. It was amazing, and everything we're seeing in this lineup kind of fell out of that.
Yeah, it was. And like to go through that and see, and like not everyone had the same opinions on things, right? It was pretty interesting just to get the take on from everybody. And but no, like I said, I've been nothing but impressed. I can't wait until I'm able to, you know, have a few more of them on the deck of my boat as well. But yeah, no, I've got a few, and they're awesome. They're awesome.
All right, so here's a couple more questions. Mario's asking, what Fuji model are they running guides on the new NRX Plus? So it's a titanium framed SIC guide ring on the NRX Plus. And the main reason for the guide train going to recoils, yes, it's weight reduction in the tip. It's balance in the rod. The recoil, when you feel that rod, if you were to take a Conquest, like we said at the beginning of the show, that has all Torsites and SICs, and compare it to this, you know, this guide train that is a hybrid guide train that goes from SIC to recoils, it absolutely helps. I feel it lets the blank be the blank more rather than a double foot guide. They're lighter, the balance is better. So, and you know, Gussy's saying accuracy, it probably helps on that regard. You found as well, Gussy?
Yeah, absolutely. And then like to further that, like I look at everything, and I'm picky about my equipment. Every hook that I use, I mean, I'm constantly like, my fingers are disgusting because I'm just like constantly 100 times a day, like checking my hook point. And you look at the recoil guides, and you're like, how, you know, I question on light line, are those gonna, you know, damage the line or hurt my, and they don't. They're amazing, and they never break. Like you can, you know, if you stepped on one or you tangled one up with another rod, I mean, and they're small and light and just, they're so perfect. I love them. I wouldn't want anything else on the rods for sure. And you know, like they're bulletproof.
All right, so here's one for you. You just got done with Texas, and I know you were drop shotting bedding fish on a spinning rod, but in your opinion, best model for pitching Texas rigs, so half ounce jig, Gussy?
I'd go with that 904, 903 or 904, depending on, you know, if you're, what size of fish you're fishing for and the kind of cover you're kind of going to be around. If you're, you know, kind of open water up north where you're not, you know, maybe battling with 8 and 10 pounders, I would go with the 903. And if you're sort of somewhere south and fish around a little bit more cover, maybe, and you got muscle them a little bit more, maybe the 904. But both are 7.6, you know, designed for doing just that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and you're saying go with the MBR model?
Yeah.
I'm a big, I love JWR actions.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's weird because with the new NRX Plus, what we've noticed over the old NRX had a few technique specific rods. Like, you know, it had the DSR, the drop shot rod, and it had an umbrella rig rod. It had a few of its own standalones, Carolina rig rod, but then the sheer bulk of them were JWR, jig worm rods, right? Both spinning and casting.
Yep.
And now with the new NRX Plus, we're seeing that pocket of spinning and casting there, JWR. But now all of a sudden you've got MBR, so mag bass in the casting, and you got SJR, spin jig rods in the spinning. And then you've got 5 technique specific rods in the Carolina rig rod, the bladed jig chatterbait rod, the shaky head rod, the drop shot rod, and of course, last but not least, the Ned rod. So kind of covers us everywhere, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And so like I kind of consider, like, and I said this earlier, but like the MBR rods, they're a little bit heavier. You know, I feel like a little bit more muscle, a little bit more like GLX type actions maybe. So it's just, you know, if you're you if you're using a big hook, I prefer that rod a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, you can't really go wrong.
No,
the 894 is a that's a very popular one for those techniques amongst a lot of the guys that I fish against.
Yeah, and that's the big difference for most people. If you've never fished an MBR versus the JWR, I would say when they load, JWRs tend to be a little more parabolic, and the MBRs shut off a little further up. They're a little faster in action, and that's we talk about this all the time with Loomis in action, but that's that MTD, that multi-taper design that they've been using to form their blanks. I mean, they can dial in that action to the point where it only fires when you cast, and then it fires differently when you're fighting a fish or setting the hook. It's pretty crazy. You don't notice it. It's something you can't really explain to someone until they cast, set the hook, or fight a fish.
And that's where, like, you can go pick these rods up in the tackle store, and then obviously they're light and they feel really good, but like when you actually go out and fish with one, that's for me when I notice, like, man, this thing is just like a dream to cast. And when I set the hook and load it up, everything's perfect. And that's where just that I really noticed that. That's my thing. I'm picky about that stuff, and I just want to catch every fish that I can. So
yeah, it's all about bites. For me, it's the cast and the hook set. Those are the two critical areas where I will rate a rod.
Yeah,
how well it loads, not only with heavy baits but with lighter baits.
Yeah,
that's a big thing for me. And then, at what point does it lock in to start putting the hook into the fish, rather than I've had rods in the past where you set the hook and it just keeps giving. There's no shut off on the blank, and you end up pulling the Bill Dance where you're spun around in your chair trying to set the hook over your head because you just can't get the meat into them, where a Loomis is like a little flick of the wrist and it hits that lock point, and the rest of the pull is moving the fish.
Yep. No, for sure.
All right, this one's up your alley there, bud, for Riley. What do you got for him?
I'm going with the 901 spinning rod. So that's for a lot of us, that's the hair jig rod, the little marabou jigs. But for spy baits, so a couple things. We're using spy baits in clear water, particularly on the Great Lakes, the St. Lawrence River, those types of places. And you want to be able to make a long cast, so the rod's going to accomplish that. And then spy baits have a small hook on them. And if you're catching those 4, 5, 6 pound smallmouths, they fight hard. They're big and mean. You need a light, soft, long rod to absorb, fighting that fish and not ripping those little hooks out of their mouth. So that's the dream rod for throwing a spy bait for me.
So the 901, I find, has become a cult rod for the finesse smallmouth angler, even finesse largemouth angler. What are the techniques you would say that rod works well for?
So yeah, I mentioned it earlier, the hair jig, the fluff. I'm drop shotting a little bit with the 901 and the 902 as well. Like at places like the St. Lawrence River, it's deep water. I just want that long parabolic, I can use a small hook and I'm not going to tear it out. If using some of those small hooks, if you got a little bit of a stiffer action rod, you just risk really tearing the hook out of the fish's mouth. In a place like the St. If I'm in a lake situation and you really need a little bit more sensitivity, then I'm going to go with the DSSR rod. But a place like the St. Lawrence River, we're drifting along pretty quick. There's no mistake when those big smallmouths bite. And I had good luck, like being able to land all the fish that I caught drop shotting with that rod. So just something to, if you fish a place like that or, big fish with small hooks, that's where that long, soft rod's going to shine. For as soft as it is, it still has a ton of sensitivity and you can feel what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. And so what's your ultimate setup? Size of reel, line you're using with it? Are you going straight fluoro? Because I know you do in some regards. So what's your deal?
So for me, I don't put straight fluoro on a spinning rod under any circumstance. I mean, the only people you see doing that are Southern anglers that don't use spinning rods very often. I don't know. Here's the deal. You learn how to tie a leader knot. The FG knot's the best one in my opinion. It takes a little practice, but whatever, there's a number of knots that work fine for that. I put Power Pro on all my spinning rods. Just regular Power Pro is my favorite, and it's bulletproof stuff. And tie a leader on. I can have a 6-pound or 8-pound leader on if I want. I can have a 10 or 12-pound leader on if I'm fishing for bigger fish around cover. And that's what I alter is just my leader. But for me, every spinning rod in my boat's getting Power Pro on it. For my dream, the X-Sense reels, they're the best. If you want the best reel for the best rod, that's the one to get. But the new Vanfords, I mean, are quite a bit lesser cost and are that's like the CI4 upgraded a little bit. And like the CI4 has been, you look at like any pros that aren't sponsored maybe by a reel company, 100
some that are too.
Some
of that are.
CI4s in their boat. Like,
yeah,
I could name all, it's not fair to name these guys, but like I could name 10 of the guys that I fish against that have Vanfords or CI4s in their boats. They might be sponsored by a rod company or whatever it is, but that's the reels they use. And if I was going to buy, a bunch of new reels to outfit my stuff, I'd be getting the Vanfords.
Yeah, for sure. And so what pound test Power Pro? Sorry, I might have missed it there, guys.
I use 10 for the most part, like for Ned rigs, tubes, Demiki rigging, Senkos, that sort of thing. 10. I use 8 for 8-pound Power Pro for the hair jigs, for a spy bait. Like for my 901, 902, they're getting 8-pound Power Pro. I don't use the 5 a lot. I do for ice fishing. I don't use it a lot for the bass, but that was kind of
it.
Well, that was all pre learning the FG knot. So the sucky knots that I used before didn't work that good with it.
It likes 5-pound likes the FG, Gussy.
Yeah, I know.
Really, I run 5 to 7 or 5 to 8-pound fluoro, and it is like I could spool up 15 or 20 feet of fluoro, and it is.
Yeah, so that's definitely something I'm going to be adding to the repertoire this summer.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
actually, I just got sent something cool, Gussy. We discussed that that new reel seat a little, and it's funny. You saw the release that we just did with the teaser video of the guy drawing out the handle. And that's kind of how everything starts. And then Bobo just sent me the CAD drawing to the thing. So I'm going to see if I could pop this up here. This is that new, and we talked about it a bit, the CI4 Plus reel seat that is completely new design for what we got here. So this is it here. So you can see it there. I'm going to stretch this out a bit. So there's that new CAD design from that new reel seat. And, Gussy talked about immediately how comfortable it is. And the big thing for me right here, you can see it's got this little indentation on either side. It's got this. And that's where your fingers would come around, whether you're left or right-handed. Your hand's going to come around your bait caster and wrap that area.
And it's got that little hint of a rubber feel to it.
Yes, it's got that rubberized touch to it. Yes.
Creamy.
Yeah, it is an unbelievable reel seat. So that's kind of like part of the engineering that goes into doing these rods. It's just so much that's so involved. And
the guys were proud of that handle. Like there was a lot of thought in they've tried several different ones. There was a lot put into that handle. So it's the right one.
And on the spinning side, I mean, the beauty is here. You can see it here. So there's the front of the spinning handle. And then you can see the back. To me, this is super important because I've seen rods where the reel seat is only under this side and you end up with cork on this side. And you have this loss of transmission of sensitivity when you have that cork there. Listen, cork is great material for a handle, but there's nothing like having the actual reel seat in your mitt when you're fishing. The other thing you'll notice with these, like all Loomises, the spinning reels all screw from the bottom. They lock from the bottom up so that your spinning reel is always in the exact same position. And the bait casters are the opposite. They always thread down to cover the thread on the reel seat, and that makes more comfortable. It's like, it's nicer in your hand. So yeah, I've been thrilled with every rod I've put in my hand, whether it's an MBR, JWR, SJR, or whatever. Yeah, that is super, super comfortable.
Yeah.
All right, so new custom reel seat. All right, so let's see. Let me get to some questions here. Okay, this is a good one. John Weeks is asking. John, what's going on, bud? Oh, by the way, before I continue with this, folks, thank you very much for joining us for tonight. I've got Jeff Gussy Gustafson here with us on the G Loomis YouTube and Facebook page. If you guys could do us a favor, we're talking all about the new release of NRX Plus, and we're talking about Gussy's Elite Series win a bit and his techniques, and he's digging into some smallmouth stuff, which is always good to learn from Gussy. So if you've got questions, feel free to put them in there. Fire them away. We got G Loomis is on here as well. They're answering if you got technical questions about shipping dates for the rods. They've been up there answering those as well. And then if you could share it for us, just click the share button. It's real simple. It's right down there on the right-hand side. It's simple. It's going to, I promise you, take 3 seconds. Or I love doing this to my buddies. If I'm watching a video that has a topic that I know my friends would be interested in or could help them, I tag them. Just tag them in the comments and it'll get it into their box. This is going to be up in perpetuity, so it's going to live here. You can watch the video after and see if there's something you missed or if you tuned in late. So let's continue here. John Weeks is asking, if you had to acquire in stages, what's the most versatile 2-3 rods in the lineup?
And yeah, I get that for sure. So I guess I see he's holding up a largemouth. I guess it depends if you're a largemouth, if you're predominantly fishing largemouths or smallmouths or where you're at. But for me, it's the 893. That's my favorite kind of do everything rod. I can throw a football jig on it, a chatterbait on it if I wanted to, a swim jig, a spinner bait, a big, topwater walking bait. I throw a big spook on that style bait on that rod. It just kind of is a do everything. That would be one. Probably an 842 bait casting rod, just for a jerk bait, a smaller top water, a
7-foot medium. Yep.
Yeah. And then that 872 spinning rod. That's kind of, for me,
those are your 3.
A do everything. That's my 3. Yeah. But
I'm in complete agreement with you here, Gussy, especially regarding the 893. It's probably as well my favorite, whether I'm throwing a chatterbait or an open hook swim bait. The rod can do just about everything. Dragging 3/4 ounce football heads on Erie with swim baits on them.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Yeah, the rod can do anything. Ledge fishing, it'd be a great Texas rigging rod for ledge fishing.
What I throw a bucktail jig on, a big hair jig. Yep.
And for me, it'd be the 852. I have very little experience with the 872. But I know the 852 to me is like, if someone said I had to buy one spinning rod, I'd say that's the one that can do everything.
Yep.
Everything. So that's a great starting point for you, John, and hopefully that helps.
You might want to look at that 903 or 904. If you're doing a lot of flipping around and pitching, those are the ones to go with there, I think.
Look at this. Bobo's sending me all the goods, bud. He's on a rampage here. Let me see what Bobo just sent me. He just sent me some. Yeah, the new hook keeper. So this is something we can talk about, which I think is really cool. We have a new hook keeper on the rods, right? So for those of you who haven't seen this, so the MBR, so the mag bass are all full cork rear handles. So the hook keeper is on the upper side of the top of the reel seat or the top of the foregrip. On every split grip rod, which would be all SJRs and all JWRs, we have them right in between the split grip on the bottom by the butt section of the rod, which I think, in my opinion, is probably the smartest place I have seen for a hook keeper, because nothing bothers me more than putting my hand on a rod and then having your finger touch where the hook keeper is. Right? So you could see here, I got enough room in here. There's the hook keeper on the spinning rod. This is an 852, and it is right there, which is a really, really good place. Have you found, I noticed with the MBRs, Gussy, I feel like they put it high up enough that it's not interfering with your hand when you got the reel in your hand. Have you found the same thing?
Yeah, for sure. The nice thing about these two is like if you're doing a bit of drop shotting, it's an easy place to hook up your weight, and that's kind of slick too. But no, a few times last week I would go to like hook my bait up above the reel where it had kind of been, and then it's nice like being in the rod locker. The baits are all near the back, so there's no tangling with any of the other lines.
And you're not marring the label section of your blank anymore, where we used to throw a jerk bait that has 3 hooks on it.
Oh yeah,
it's laying right where all your rod information is, and your rod looks destroyed after a bad boat ride.
Yeah, I go on a few of those every year. So
wait till you come north; you're gonna have a few more in your future.
Oh yeah, no, actually, my boat's been getting off pretty easy this year so far. As far as just haven't had it too many big wind days, but yeah, a week at Champlain make up for that real quick.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's see what else we got. So Cole's asking, Gussy, have you had a chance to try the new Ned rig rod?
I haven't got the NRX+ Ned rig rod, but I just got the IMX Pro Ned rig rod, and so last week,
the 7.4.
What's that?
Did you get the bigger one, the 7'4"?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude, it's phenomenal. And like, it's going to be, and Cole would use them too, but we use the little bitsy, the small tubes a lot up north. Mixing it up with the Ned rig baits. But like, anyone that knows me, like I throw a hula stick, a Z-Man hula stick. That's my Ned rig bait. And I mean, I drive those guys nuts how many that I order and go through in a year. But it's a sweet rod. So the last week before we got to Neely Henry, my wife and I went to Logan Martin Lake, which is one below Neely Henry. Spent 3 or 4 days fishing down there, and it was fun. It was so fun. I mean, that place is a factory for spotted bass. We caught largemouths too, but like you could just go around with the Ned rig and catch like 50 or 60 fish a day. It was crazy. And so I had the rod, that was my first time kind of using it. And I was so excited, like driving up to Neely Henry, because I was like, I'm just going to go around and Ned rig the heck out of these things. And like, it's going to be so fun. And like, I might not win, but like, I'm going to catch a bunch. It's going to be a good tournament. And, get up there, and it was like completely different body of water. It was it was a lot narrower, more river, dirty water. And then it ended up flooding, and there was no,
you guys lost a day. I mean, it was dirtier than it normally was. The water was higher than it normally was. I mean, it's tough for you guys because you go through a practice and you've established your game plan, and you might as well show up the day before.
I would have been better off not practicing for that. And I'd never been to this lake before. And like for people that don't know, we get 3 days to pre-fish for an Elite Series event, and it's not a lot of time. Like when you go to like a body of water that you've never been. I mean, if it's a place you fished before, you can kind of cover a lot of stuff in 3 days. But if it's not, it's so easy to get into one creek, and you try a few docks, you try some offshore stuff, you try a bit of the back shallow stuff, and all of a sudden you've eaten up like 4 or 5 hours and you haven't figured anything out. It's like, oh man, that was no good. And so yeah, I was really proud of wherever I finished in the 30s last weekend, because in my history on these reservoirs, when they flood the day before or 2 days before the tournament, get all muddy, I mean, it's not been good. My history's been bad. So I survived this one, and it was the new rod made my cat. I was fishing the bank, all day on Saturday, and I had a top 10 catch on Saturday, and I jumped from in the 70s up into the 30s. So I was casting at the shore all day, and like, in a normal day of doing that, I'm hitting branches or, making my cast 10 feet short. Like I'll have at least 50 bad casts in a day, like on a dock or hitting the dock or hitting it, I had to go up and get my bait off trees several times. I mean, that's true story. I had a lot less of that going on with the new rod for sure.
Yeah, that's that recovery rate. Like it really is. I'm getting a couple messages, private messages about the styles of handles. Okay. So I got a screen grab here for you guys. For those of you wondering, yeah. So these are the styles. So the bottom three, G, H, and I, are all MBR handles. That's that full rear cork, and you can kind of see where the actual hook keeper is. It's like right here, just under that wrap right there. And then these would be JWR. So D, E, and F are JWR blanks. And then A, B, and C could be a drop shot, shaky head, JWR, SJR. That's going to be shared. But typically what happens is when you see the longer rear grip section, it's just because it's on a longer rod. The longer the rod gets, the longer the handle gets. The shorter the rod is, the shorter the handle is. So that's typically what you'll expect to see from the new NRX Plus lineup. That's our locked-in final real handles that you have a choice from. And it will be, if you go on the website, there's some good information because you could see everything. I actually have a grab of that. Let me grab it right now. This is what you'll see.
This is all well thought out too. I mean, you're going to get, I know I get the messages. One person doesn't like the split grip. One person but like
you can't make everyone happy, Gussy.
No, but they're all. I mean, that's the one thing that I'm probably most proud of with these rods is that I know how hard those guys work to get this done and how much time and thought they put into all that, the handles especially.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a good example. If you're on the website or do you see the sell sheet on them, it'll tell you the model, the length, the power, action, how many pieces. They're all one piece. There are no two-piece NRX Plus rods. The line ratings, which here's something we could talk about a little bit, Gussy. Like I always found traditionally, I remember growing up using Shimano rods and earlier Loomis rods that a medium heavy traditionally was 10 to 20 rated. Right? Where here, our medium heavies are 12 to 16 rated. I feel like it throws people off. The first time I saw it in the NRXs or in the GLXs, I was like, ooh, 12 to 16 isn't enough because I'm used to a 10 to 20. And it's not enough right until the point where you set the hook and flip a fish in the boat and realize the rod's got way more jam than you think it does. Did you find the same thing, that the ratings tend to be a little lighter on the Loomis rods than compared to the industry standard?
Yeah, probably. And
yeah, it just feels that way for sure.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
Yeah. The big thing I tend to use more so is the lure rating, so that I line up my rods with, if I'm throwing a 3/4 ounce CFL chatterbait or I'm throwing a 1/2 ounce jig or a 1/4 ounce Texas rig, I try to use the lure ratings rather than the line ratings to match so that the rod loads properly, casts accurately, performs better that way. And then your handles are going to be here for you guys as well. So
for
lots of information,
flipping and pitching around, like if you're stuck between that, say the 903 and the 904, if you're pitching a 1/2 ounce and heavier most of the time, which I do, I like to, zing, 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 cover ground, be a little bit more efficient. I'm going with I'd like a 4 power. If I'm using a 3/8 or less, I'm going to probably like a 3 power more. That's my kind of rule. If you're like having a hard time on which one of those rods to pick for.
So your 3/8 or less is medium heavy, and then 1/2 ounce and over is heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great golden rule for people who are wondering. And it's not that you can't get away with throwing a 1/2 ounce on the 3 power. It'll happen without problem. But it's a great, I find that's why the 893 or the 903 are just such good everything rods. They kind of can do a bit of everything.
Yeah.
All right. I even found, Gussy, a real cool close-up I have here of that reel seat here so people can see it a little better. Oh, yeah. This is what we're talking about that custom reel seat. And there's a couple questions got asked here about, is it the same reel seat as X Pride? No, this is a brand new redesigned reel seat that they came up with. And it's just, for me, it's the ergonomics of this reel seat that I think surpass anything I've ever. The touch is cool. I mean, like you mentioned, that rubberized feel to it. Yeah. But the ergonomics, like this kind of detail where they've taken out sections, and what you can't see is underneath this wider section, which is the top of the reel seat. It's actually carved out underneath there as well. But this is where your fingers would end up wrapping around a bait caster and settling into.
And here's what I'll tell everyone: you get one of these rods, and you'll end up like me, taking baits off other rods and just retying them onto the one NRX Plus you have, because you won't even want to pick up the other rods in your boat. I mean, they're a pleasure to use. That's the best thing I could say. And I'm not like, I don't want to sound like really advertorial here or pushy about it, but like you fish with one, and you can thank me later.
And if you're going to go check one out, here's my piece of advice. Put the reel you intend on using on the blank in the store. Like, ask the guy to take one out of a counter, because someone asked this. Let's see. Someone asked about reel seats, reel weights. And let me just find that question, because I thought it was a really good question, and it was from Dusan. Are the rods, here it is here. Are the rods balanced to a specific reel, or can we expect good performance with a variety of reels? So
I think that goes more to like the technique that you're using. Like if I'm flipping and pitching around now, I like that smaller, the new Corrado 70. Like that's kind
of
my favorite pitching reel now. But if I'm all purpose, like want the workhorse, if I'm throwing a chatterbait or I'm probably going to go a spinnerbait. I'm probably going to go with the Metanium. Not quite as low profile, but it's just bulletproof, tight. Yeah. I can feel
Bantam's another good. Both of those core solid reels feel like workhorses. They really do.
Yeah, but no, the reel seats, you're going to be able to put any kind of reel on them. No worries there.
Yeah, and Dusan, for if you look at what, especially on the spinning side of things, which traditionally spinning reels were the heavier, always have been the heavier of the two, our casting reels now are averaging 7 ounces on the heavy side and like 5 ounces on the light side. Spinning reels have actually caught up. The new Ultegra at a 3,000 size is 7.6 ounces or something ridiculous like that, where the Vanford would be 6.3, or the Xsense that has a magnesium body is a little lighter. But really, you're within a couple ounces, and that will not upset the apple cart when it comes to balance on these rods. They feel great. I fished, like Gussy mentioned, I had a Metanium core solid on the 853 today that I was casting around when I was testing it, and I had a Vanford 2500 on the 902 SJR, and phenomenal balance, great feeling. I mean, and the more weight you have at the bottom of a rod, believe it or not, the better balance the rod becomes. Remember, you hold a reel, it's the reel's in your hand or behind your hand a little. So it'll actually help the balance if it's a heavier reel. I'm testing them with the lightest reels we have to offer almost, and they're still balancing. I don't think you're going to have a problem with anything you choose to put on those rods.
No.
All right. Ryan's asking about fly rods. We're the wrong crew to be asking about this, bud.
Hey, the NRX Plus fly rods came out last year. It's our turn. It's our. We have to
wait an extra year. Yeah, we have to wait an extra year. Okay, so let's see. Gussy, could you throw a chatterbait at every elite event and make the cut? What's your setup for chatterbaits?
Yeah, probably. Frank Talley, one of the guys that I fished against, won our elite event at Gunnersville last fall. Great guy. He throws a chatterbait more than almost anyone I know. He had a really good year last year, and I know the whole season that's all he threw. Like even up at the St. Lawrence River, he threw a chatterbait and caught largemouth, smallmouths.
Brock Mosley was doing the same thing, right?
Yeah. Brock was doing, he's coming, he's bummed several chatterbaits off me in the last couple of years. It'll be like after day 2 and he's in second place, and I'll give you whatever you need, bud. But no, yeah, you probably could. So for years, I threw them on an 893 NRX. That's kind of my do everything rod we talked about earlier. But now we have the new NRX or the IMX Pro chatterbait rod is super nice. I mean, it's dialed, and then I haven't seen the NRX Plus one. If you can swing that one, it's going to be amazing. Guaranteed, 100%.
So, Gussy, the IMX Pro chatterbait rod, or bladed jig rod, as they call it,
yeah,
is available in 2 powers.
Yeah.
So one is rated 1/4 to 3/8, I believe, and the other one is like 1/2 ounce to 3/4.
What's your favorite? I'm happier with the 7.4. If I'm throwing a chatterbait, I'm 90% of the time I'm throwing a 1/2 ounce, and I'm throwing it on 20-pound fluoro. A jackhammer, if I'm throwing that. Sometimes we use the Z-Man makes a chatterbait custom that they sell at Tackle Warehouse only, and it has a wire connector on it, so you can actually throw that one with braid. And down in Florida, places with a lot of grass, and around home even, that one catches fish for me, and a lot of my buddies use that one. But you can actually use that one with braid.
I actually have the stats here for you, Gussy, so people can see them. So the 5 specialty technique-specific rods from NRX Plus: Carolina rig rod, drop shot rod, shaky head rod, Ned rig rod. So bladed jig is a 7.4 medium heavy, rated 12 to 16, like we talked about, but rated 3/16 to 5/8. So that's going to fall right in the pocket for you if you're throwing a 1/2 ounce most of the time. This one's just shy. So this feels like it's an in-between to what the 2 IMX Pro bladed jig rods offer. This is like IMX Pro bladed jig had a light and a heavy version, and this is like a gap rod for the bladed jig. It'll cover everything from 1/4 ounce all the way up to
and yeah, like, so you got a little bit of length. You can still bomb them, cast them, but it's not too long to where you can't skip it under some docks and stuff. Also, if you're a swim jig guy, that rod, you can put some Power Pro on it, and that's a phenomenal swim jig rod as well.
So do you throw your chatterbaits on fluoro, Gussy, or are you throwing them on braid?
Chatterbaits I'm throwing on fluoro, but a swim jig I'm throwing it on braid 85% of the time.
What pound fluoro are you throwing your bladed jigs on?
Usually 20, just straight 20 Seagar.
Straight 20. And do you go with a bigger reel because of that?
No, I'm using a Metanium, and a 7-to-1 Metanium.
150 size.
Yeah, and you can fill it up, and I'm not, you can't cast it all out.
Well, that's a perfect scenario there. So hopefully that helps, Chris. That's Gussy saying bladed jig rod, the heavier of the 2. The new NRX Plus, obviously 7'4", would do the job as well. Let's see what else we got. The questions are just kind of popping in. Okay, Tristan's asking. Tristan, how you doing, bud? That's a nice Barra he's got in his hands there, eh? Don't show Carl that. He's going to miss home. What NRX would you use for weightless Senko and 3/8 ounce jig?
I'd probably go with that 893. I'm assuming casting rod, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, if it's casting. So we're 893, 7'5", medium heavy, fast action. Okay, so for the northern guys, because a lot of people throw Senko, especially 4-inch Senko, on spinning up here. What would you recommend for a Senko rod? Are you going to the jack of all trades?
Yeah, for me it's the 872. So that's a 7.3 kind of medium action, about your side of medium, and that's the dream Senko wacky rig rod, Nico rig rod, tubes, Ned rigs. I use that for everything.
All right, we got another one. Roland, hope you're doing well. So he's asking how the NRX+MBRs compared to Conquest MBR actions. You fished both, correct?
Yep.
You find that the consistency of the tapers are the same outside of the power of the rod being different. Are the actions the same on the MBRs?
I think they're similar, but just like, I guess refined is the word that we're using with NRX Plus. I think that just like what I've noticed, and I mean, I haven't used all of them, but I have used the MBR rods, and like and all of them, I'll say this about, just the tips are just really dialed on them, and that's going to make casting better, easier, accurate, and also, you know, you're loading up, but lots of power in that, you know, bottom half. So I think just like the way the guides are and everything, I think they are a little upgrade on the Conquest. They feel better to me. I don't know. It's hard to, I mean, you're talking about like,
yeah,
you know,
you're splitting hairs at this point, but they do feel different.
Yeah.
So here's one from one of our YouTube viewers. Felipe is asking, is the MBR, would you consider that blank and a do-it-all blank?
I think the jig and worm rods are more of a do-it-all personally, just because you've got a little bit softer actions. But yeah, I'd go with the jig and worm rod. If you're a flipper and a pitcher, the MBR rods are the way to go for me.
Yeah, I liken them a little bit to the FPR series in the actions that they have.
Yeah,
kind of stiffer down further the blank, and a better tip for checking almost.
Yeah,
like it's all the tip is in the first 4 or 5 bends of the guides, and then everything else kind of straightens right out on them until you lock them up.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so here's one from Chris. Gussy, is Fighter going to hang on to win AOY?
Guaranteed. Hey, I mean, you never know. He's one of my best buddies, and I'm gonna, you know, help him every way that I can, and I hope that he does. But it's amazing to see, because I mean, he's just fishing so. He's not having to
clean.
like think about anything, you know.
He's
like,
clean right now, yeah.
Last week, he finished 12th, and I mean, he just dropped his trolling motor the first day right at the ramp and started fishing and lit him up. And I mean, it's just everything's going good and easy. And I mean, he's top 10 the last couple times we've been at Gunnersville. I mean, if he gets through that one, we got 2 more up in New York, at Champlain and the St. Lawrence River. And I mean, he's
strong there.
He's got a lead at those 2 places. He'll be tough to beat. I mean, you never know. There's a lot of variables. Anything can happen. And the guys that are behind him are, you know, they're the best. So it's, but yeah, he's in good shape, and it's been pretty amazing to watch just how he can do no wrong.
It seems as though to win that prize, which is arguably the toughest thing to do in the Elite Series, is win AOY.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no room for even one toe stub.
You can't, almost like,
because you'll get swallowed up quick.
Can't have a bad, the way it's going this year. He hasn't had a bad tournament yet, and he's if he wins, he's probably not going to. Yeah, it's a tough crowd. So it's very hard to win. I mean, that's catching limits every day all year, and it sounds a lot easier than it is to actually do.
Yeah, for sure it does. Okay, so folks, we've already been an hour and 3 minutes, so I don't want to keep Gussy all night. I know he's probably just ready to chill and take it easy before his next event. But if you got a question, I'm going to give you guys a couple more minutes. If you got one for Gussy, whether it's about smallmouth fishing, moping a jig, which is, you know, basically what Gussy is known for doing back home since he was 16 years old. You've been doing that technique?
Yeah, a long time. It was pretty amazing the way that worked out, where I was able to, you know, to catch the fish in the tournament that way. It was crazy.
Dude, you had me on the edge of my seat that final day, you know, watching you catch one and then half-inch short, or, you know, the one where it got out of your arms a fean times when you were trying to land it, giving people heart attacks. It was actually unbelievable. I mean, thrilled is an understatement for watching you do that. And now hopefully also Corey can get his. I mean, that'd be great for the Canadian.
Yeah, he will.
It's just a matter of time. I mean, he's been knocking on the door
for years, but he will.
That's for sure.
So
folks,
I get a lot. Here's one. I get a lot of questions from people that see the maybe a highlight on social media or they just started following Bassmaster Live, and I get questions. I probably had 3 or 4 in the past week. Why aren't you guys using nets? And we're actually not allowed to use nets. And I don't think any of the higher level circuits really do that anymore. So it's just Bassmaster. That's been a rule since it started, I believe, and it creates a little bit more drama, for the live show and grab them. But honestly, I could tell you in the last 5 years, I've lost more fish in like team tournaments at home where we're messing around by the boat and my partner, or I'm trying to net one, then I don't know. It seems like for me, if hardly ever
pegged, they're coming in the boat without the net, right? You're not reaching for them.
My attitude, like I don't mess around. Like you watch some of the guys, and I mean, they're just like fighting them around and chasing them around. I just I get them in. If I got a shot to grab them, I'm gonna go for the one shot. And it doesn't always work that way, but I feel like I'm pretty good at grabbing them. But yeah, it is what it is. It's the same for everyone.
Here's a question from Tyler for you. NRX plus jerkbait rod in the works, ? So there isn't one right now, but I can pick 2 to do both southern and northern smallmouth fishing. For me, it's an 852S or an 852C. So casting 7-1 medium. I think they'd work no matter where you fish in the country. Are you on the same page there, Gussy?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Tyler, when you feel these rods, you're going to realize how light they feel. I mean, I don't think a smallmouth that bites any jerkbait that has multiple treble hooks, if they've got good hooks in it, he'll never get off that rod because it gives so well. I mean,
and like 7 foot, 7-1, that I don't think you want to go shorter than that for throwing a jerkbait anymore, just because most of the places that we fish where a jerkbait shines, you want to make a long cast. That 7 foot
water
is just kind of the magic number for that. I mean, there's certainly times where maybe down south, especially where you're throwing them around docks and you want to maybe that traditional like 6'6", 6'10" jerkbait rod is going to be more helpful. But for the most part, it's that 840, 42, 852 is the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we got another one here, and I think this guy's probably taking a part of a shot here. Do you know what Tony Starich? You know Tony?
Yeah, I know who he is. Yeah.
Okay, so favorite rod for walleye on Lake of the Woods. That's an easy one. You're going to answer. But he's asking if the 5 of diamonds is part of your tackle.
If I'm going for my fave walleye jigging rod, probably that 852. Just keep it kind of close to the boat, and yeah, you're gonna feel every walleye that breathes on your jig. And the 5 of diamonds, I haven't weighed a bass in an Elite Series tournament on it yet, but it's coming.
St. Lawrence, if you're going to do it anywhere, dude, you should be able to do it on the St. Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean, or Champlain, yeah, for sure.
Or Champlain, yeah. All right, Tony, hopefully that helps you. But you're noticing a common theme here, the 852. You're hearing that number a lot. And it's for good reason. When we say that's the jack of all trades, when anybody asks me if I had to buy one spinning rod or one casting rod, 852 spinning, 893 casting, they're the 2 jack of all trades.
And JP, one before we go, in case there's anyone on here watching that maybe, because we're throwing the three numbers around to describe these rods a lot. Explain to everyone what those 3 numbers mean and how G Loomis uses 3 numbers for all their rods.
Are you throwing the question to me to explain that?
Well, I mean, I can.
I'm good either way, dude.
Doing that stuff, so
comes from the fly division. Is the rods are measured in inches and power. So the 3 numbers traditionally on bass rods, the first 2 are the length in inches. So 85 inches is 7'1". The second number is the power. So on Loomis rods, you'll notice there's 1 power, 2 power, 3, up to 6 usually. depending on the technique. So you end up going from, medium light to medium heavy to extra heavy to double extra heavy. And so when you look at a Loomis rod, it will say it on the blank, 7'1" medium extra fast. But when you hear us throwing around 852S or 893C, the first numbers are length and power. The S is spinning, the C is casting. So that's how we determine what rods we're using.
It's pretty simple. And then it also, anyone that's like a real proud Loomis owner that uses them a lot, I mean, that's how we all kind of talk. And
that's our language.
That's our language. So if for anyone that like is struggling, like thinking about it, 84 is 7 feet. So a 90 is a 7.6. And
yep.
But yeah, 84 is 7 feet. So it's pretty easy once you figure it out a little bit. But that's where the three numbers kind of come from.
So we got Harris on our YouTube channel. He's saying he misses the Mossy backs and the Greenwater series. And you know what, Harris, I'm not going to disagree with you because I made a lot of casts with Mossy back rods. I mean, I think the BCFR 893 and 894 flipping sticks in the Mossy back lineup were probably two of the ones I used the most growing up. But I will tell you this, the IMX Pro lineup, if you loved Mossy back, you should be able to find something very similar in IMX Pro, because I feel like it took a while for Loomis to find that blank and taper and action that Mossy had. But when IMX Pro has become so extensive of a lineup, whether you're, any technique you could think of, they've got a rod, from big, deep crankbaits to fluff to anything.
Mm-hmm.
Take a look at that. I mean, for the Greenwater series, if you haven't seen the new IMX Pro Blues, they're phenomenal. We got the E6X inshore that are still around that will do the job on a lot of situations. But to find your Mossy back love back, go look at the IMX Pro lineup.
And better you'll like the handles better on the IMX Pro too.
I agree.
Thinner, a little nicer.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I've noticed even with this over the old NRXs, the shape of the handle has become, even the cork contouring is a little more refined.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see, what do we got? Blake saying he bought an 852C and he loves it for weightless plastics, 1/8 ounce chatterbaits. I mean, again, 852, it's a blank that does everything. I think we are good, dude. You know what, folks? Again, this has been Gussy hanging out with us for an hour and 12 minutes. And Gussy, I want to thank you, dude. I know you're busy. And
hey, I enjoy doing this stuff. And people can fire away. I get questions just about every day on Loomis rods. So if you send me one, I will get to you. It might, at some point within a day or two. And fire away.
Awesome. Well, there you have it, folks. You got a direct invitation to flood Gussy's message inbox on Facebook. You can get him on Instagram. He's kind of everywhere. He does a lot of great informational tip videos if you haven't seen them. And he's been a great ambassador for us here at G Loomis. It's always nice for us to be able to take our engineers and put the rods in hands of guys who are actually using them on the tour, Gussy. So I want to thank you because you did an incredible job. I mean, everything I've put my hands on that you guys, I know it was you, Luke Clausen, Aaron Martins, David Walker, all had your hands on these rods, and you guys have done a phenomenal job with them.
Well, I didn't get, I got to tell those guys how good of a job they did, but no,
you're there to tell them if they got it right or wrong, right?
That's I do. I mean, I'm sure I drive Bob nuts. I know him good enough that if I have an issue or I don't think something's right, I'll tell them. I don't know if it goes anywhere beyond that, but no, they have a great team, and I couldn't be more proud to get to be part of G Loomis and use the rods. So.
Yeah, I think the easiest thing that I remembered about Loomis was they said the toughest thing you'll ever do is sell someone their first one. The easiest thing you'll do is sell them their next 10.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the story. And I think if you guys, any of you put your hands on that new NRX Plus, if you loved NRX, I think you're going to drop your jaw when you pick up these new ones. So folks, again, thank you for all of you guys who stuck with us tonight. Much appreciated. I hope everybody is safe and doing well. Again, if you can click the share button, this is going to live here. So let's get as many eyes on this as we possibly can from everybody from Facebook and YouTube. Thanks so much, guys. I hope you have a great night. Gussy, much appreciated, bud. I hope you stay well down there, and good luck at the next event on Gunnersville.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, take it easy, bud.